Hello, CPAC. It's really nice to be in a place where I'm not getting protested. How about you?
Well, usually Antifa follows me around, you know, they
Yeah.
have the masks. Wonderfully tolerant people.
I know. Charlie had this great idea with the music that we were going to walk out to be
Well,
Rocket Man.
I thought we should have walked out to Rocket Man. It was Kim Jong University, so that would have been
didn't
fun.
really work out for us that way. You see the title of our session today. We're going to talk about college campuses and the things that we see, the problems, and the offensive things that groups are doing on campus. But first, Charlie, I want you to talk about who you are, what is Turning Point USA, and why are you at CPAC 2018?
Well, thank you, Katie. I'm Charlie Kirk. It's my 5th CPAC, believe it or not. So founder of Turning Point USA, have a couple people here and there. So love you guys. You're the best. We're a nationwide student activist movement focused on the ideas of free enterprise, smaller government. Put simply, we believe America is the greatest country in the history of the world. We believe the Constitution is the greatest political document ever written. And we believe free enterprise is the most assured way to lift the most people out of poverty into prosperity. That's it. And those shouldn't be wildly controversial things to say on a college campus. Unfortunately, they now require trigger warnings, microaggressions, safe spaces when you start talking about American exceptionalism, freedom of speech, so on and so forth. But it really goes to the core of the fight that we're in on college campuses. And I believe the future of this country and the future of Western civilization will be decided on college and high school campuses. And it's not just a political one, but it's a cultural issue.
Right.
It's are we going to be a country that can tolerate different ideas? Mm-hmm. Are we going to be a country that allows the discourse of free speech to exist? And that's really at the heart and soul of the issue.
So speaking of the heart and soul of the issue, a lot of the times the debate gets framed in terms of left and right, Republican and Democrat, but what I like about Turning Point and what you specifically focus on with the students and the conferences you put on are the principles that have made America the greatest country in the world. And when you talk to students on college campuses, what is their perception, if they're not conservatives, of what conservatism is and what the Constitution is?
Right, and it's because of our infected education system. Young people enter and they're told that conservatives are bigoted, racist, and homophobic, and somehow that liberals are the party of freedom. It's the exact opposite. You know, the liberals like to say, oh, we're the pro-choice ones. Really, you think it's okay for pro-choice for schools, for guns, for, you know, health insurance across state lines. They don't believe actually in freedom at all. And it's our opportunity as an organization to say, no, actually, we are the defenders of freedom and liberty. You are the conformists. You are the anti-freedom party. You are the anti-freedom individuals. You believe in one-size-fits-all solutions. We're the ones actually fighting for individual choice and for liberty. And because of that, we see a huge amount of opportunity. Mm-hmm. We see, I mean, you're going to hear from someone soon, a personal hero of mine, Ben Shapiro, who's totally amazing. And he's filling up. We had him speak at our conference in December, and he spoke. I thought it was Elvis coming. It was unbelievable. I mean, there's people lining up for hours.
I've never seen Elvis and Ben Shapiro in the same room. So
you heard it here first, folks. You've never seen it, exactly. But look, here's at the core of the issue, is that college campuses have become a place where they want everyone to look different but think the same. I'm going to say that again. They want college campuses for a place where they want everyone to look different but think the same. And their idea of diversity is skin color and ethnic diversity, which is fine. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but that's easy. Mm-hmm. It's the intellectual, ideological diversity. That's where maturity happens. That's where you have to hear things that challenge your viewpoint. And when you have an education system that is so dominated by neo-Marxists and postmodernists, you have a whole education system that is just spitting out leftist automatons that have no capacity to think. And we as conservatives, and the left has feelings. We have history and logic and perspective and understanding of where our ideas come from. And that's really at the core of the issue.
So philosophically, when you try to get your message across, which you have, the thousands of students show up to your conferences, you have people wearing socialism sucks t-shirts on campuses.
It does suck,
with the Bernie Sanders logo. I mean, it's fantastic, right? You know, freedom, not stuff. How do you explain from a philosophical level why the Constitution is so important for individuals, young people, if they want to live a free life as themselves rather than as someone else wants?
It's a great question, and make no mistake, socialism is the worst idea of the 20th century, and we must defeat it every single turn, both domestically and internationally. It's a danger to humanity. And we will never back down from our vehement anti-socialist stance. But look, it comes down to a couple key questions. Where do you think rights come from? Do you think rights come from some government bureaucrat or politician that hands them out upon, when you turn a certain age? Or do you think your rights come from a creator or from a higher being? And once you're able to answer some of these fundamental questions, then you can have a philosophical, ideological construct of what you believe politically. The problem is we have bad philosophy in our country, and bad philosophy leads to bad politics. And the left philosophy is quite simple. There is no such thing as absolute truth. That government must take of everything. Whoever suffers the most must win. I call it the oppression Olympics. And that's what's happening on college campuses. It's how can we create you into the optimal level of victimhood? It's, who wins? Well, it's whoever suffers the most. No, it should be the exact opposite.
So they make everyone suffer equally.
Exactly. The story of Western civilization is overcoming victimhood. Is that I might suffer, but I can make good choices to overcome my bad circumstances. The left wants the exact opposite. It's, oh, you might have had something bad happen to you 100 years ago, therefore here's all these government benefits and people should feel sorry for you. And so philosophically, here's the issue, is if you don't trust government, why would you want to make government bigger?
Right.
And that's what I can't understand. The socialists are like, oh, well, I don't trust government. Really, then why would you want to give it more of your money, more of your freedom, make it bigger, and give up more of your life to that very same government? And in that lies the opportunity to sell our viewpoint.
Well, we're going to bring out a couple more panelists here in just a minute, but on a final point with you, I want to talk about the offensive. We always hear about the bad things that are happening on college campuses. It's clearly a liberal monopoly, but conservatives are making some headway when it comes to fighting back and getting the message across.
I've never been more optimistic for the future of this country. I mean, I go to these college campuses and we're filling up, lecture halls, and there's some great organizations. You'll hear from them. YAF, CRNC, they're doing wonderful work to advance freedom on college campuses.
Right.
But you look at, Ben Shapiro, the most downloaded podcast on iTunes. Dennis Prager's Prager University, over 1 billion views a year. Jordan Peterson, who's become like this unbelievable, he's unbelievable. That's the best word I could put. And it really shows that there is curiosity for these issues, and it's a byproduct of the left. And it's an unintended consequence. The neo-Marxists, they don't believe in dialogue. They don't believe in discussion. They believe in stifling the other opinion. But we still live in a semblance of a free society, and because of that, it has paved the way for what I believe is going to be the greatest conservative revolution in American history that's led by young people, that's for freedom and for a principled approach to defend Western civilization, to say it's okay to hear something you disagree with. Just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right, that we actually need to be able to hear ideas that will challenge our viewpoints, and on that basis, we're going to run circles around the left. These are unhappy people. These are people that are not upwardly aspirational. They hate this country. They don't want to defend what made it great. I look around this room and I look at the diversity and I look at the intellectual capacity of the conservative movement versus young leftists. I say, bring it on. We are going to win and they are going to lose.
Yes, absolutely. Well, on that note, we're going to bring out the rest of our panelists so you can hear from what the conservative movement is doing on campus. So we will introduce them shortly.
Awesome.
First of all, we have Grant Strobel from Young Americans for Freedom and Foundation. Chandler Thornton, the chairman of the CRNC. Are they coming? Hello? No? There you go. Hello. Come on down. Marcus Fontenos from the Steamboat Institute. And Stephen Rowe from the Leadership Institute.
All right.
I am so outnumbered. This is usually
this is the opposite of outnumbered on Fox, by the way.
This is certainly the opposite.
Katie Pavlich, you are outnumbered.
I'm outnumbered. I'm the one lucky gal today. So I want to start by allowing each of you to introduce yourselves. The great thing about this panel today is that it is so diverse. Conservative organizations are not doing the same things on campus, but there are a lot of them on campus. And so let's start from the left and go to the right.
Awesome. My name is Marcus Fontenos. Last year, I served as a student body president at the University of Colorado Boulder. While in office, we got rid of free speech zones throughout the entire state. It was a fun feat. And now I'm just working to really help student leaders across the country hopefully do the same things. And I'm excited to be here and on the panel and let Stephen introduce himself.
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. My name is Stephen Rowe, and I work at the Leadership Institute. Hey, there we go.
Got some fans over here.
We at the Leadership Institute try every single day to train as many conservative and liberty-minded people as possible, and we do it in all 50 states and are doing our best to equip you with the skills necessary to succeed, because we know that you have to learn how to win, and we'll make it happen.
All right. To the right side.
I'm Chandler Thornton, and I'm the national chairman of the College Republican National Committee. Do we have any college Republicans in the House? We're now celebrating our 125th anniversary this year, and we're all across the country paving the way for the next generation.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, I'm Grant Strobel. I'm the National Chairman of Young Americans for Freedom. Yeah? I have the distinct honor to represent hundreds of you in this audience today. Give yourself a round of applause, Yaffers, who are fighting every day on our college campuses for free enterprise, limited government, traditional American values, and a strong national defense. And I have the honor to work with each and every one of you after over 7 years now of activism, both in high school and in college at the University of Michigan. So looking forward to the panel today.
All right, well, we're going to pick up just where you left off. You take a lot of conservative speakers and get them on campus, which is not an easy thing to do, believe me. I'm one of the people they try to get on campus. It takes a lot of effort, not because of me, but because of the administration, because of some of the students. We hear in the news about all of these controversies with the security fees and the protesting. If you're someone who wants to know how a day looks when you're trying to bring Ben Shapiro to campus or Ann Coulter to campus or someone else to campus, walk them through what that looks like, and then we'll get to the lawsuits in just a second.
Yeah. Well, at the University of Michigan, and both in my high school as well, I've hosted now over 14 conservative speakers. So I see this all the time. And over the years, over the 4 years at the University of Michigan, things at first were not easy. Things were very hard. We worried about protesters, we worried about hecklers, but things have gotten significantly better. And this is why it's so important for conservative students to be active on their college campuses to make a difference. Because at the University of Michigan now, for our debate between Dinesh D'Souza and Bill Ayers, the dean of our liberal arts school moderated that. And now the University of Michigan is supporting our events with tens of thousands of dollars. They are making sure that our events are secure without charging us security fees. And none of this would have happened without what we're doing on campus. And this is what you should do too. But I'm lucky. Other campuses all across the country are not so lucky. At the University of Minnesota, there's an event with Ben Shapiro coming up this Monday. But you know what the University of Minnesota is saying? They're saying, well, your ideas are so odious to us that we are going to put you on a part of campus that's not easily accessible to public transportation. And we're going to do it at a time when most students aren't going to be able to attend. So we sent them a demand letter, and if they don't agree to our demands, we'll see them in court.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Marcus, I want to come down the aisle to you over here. You are a student at UC Boulder,
yes,
correct?
Ma'am.
Student body president?
Last year.
Last year?
Yep, last year.
How did you get into that position on a liberal campus, first of all?
Yes, I think when it comes down to it, just having good people around you, be able to run a good campaign, and then have a message that resonates with students. One of our platforms was restoring the student voice, whether that was in decision making on whether to bring a Starbucks or a Pizza Hut to campus, or down at the state capitol speaking on their behalf and trying to get free speech zones eradicated from campus. And in that take, we didn't only represent the CU Boulder students, but the entire student body of the public education
I want you to
system.
expand on that a little bit, because we see these free speech zones, or
Yep.
we used to see them all over the country, and they're really just places that are located on campus. So the rest of the campus, they can't hear from ideas that they're uncomfortable with. So talk about that process and why it was so important to eliminate them.
Yeah, so free speech zones, the whole title of them is very, very misleading. It sounds like it's the place that you can go. It sounds like a bastion of free speech, but in reality, it's a tiny place on campus, oftentimes located on the far side where it's not really convenient for students to get to. And that's the only place that students or community members can engage in spontaneous expressive activities. Well, personally, and then I know also groups that are sitting up on stage, Turning Point USA especially, they have a poster that says it. We believe that the First Amendment should apply to every square inch of the United States of America.
Absolutely.
In fact, we started the process off to get rid of free speech zones by just passing a simple student government resolution. One line really made the university mad, and got called into the principal's office a few times, but it said, The First Amendment of the United States Constitution shall apply to every square inch of the University of Colorado at Boulder. And that was a strong statement that the students passed unanimously, and it was able to then carry on and carry weight at the state capitol to get rid of them once and for all.
Yeah, well, that brings accountability, right? When you
It
have
does.
the First Amendment in every inch of a classroom, it brings accountability to the professors. When I was at the University of Arizona, I would go on a local radio station every week, and my name was U of A Katie, and I would talk about all the things that the professors were saying in class, and I swear my parents didn't think I was going to graduate, but I eventually got my degree. But I urge you guys to do that and bring some transparency to your classrooms for sure.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely. Speaking of journalism, exposing the campus environment, you're a contributor at Campus Reform. Talk to us a little bit about some of the stories and the most outrageous stories that you've had to write.
Yeah, absolutely. At the Leadership Institute's Campus Reform, we expose liberal bias and abuse on college campuses across this entire country. And there was just a great plethora amount of crazy instances that are happening. For example, at UCF, they had a liberal fight club, a literal fight club, where they were training leftists and progressives to learn how to fight, and they specifically didn't allow Republican and conservative students into this fight club. And I'll leave it to your imagination.
Can you
as to-
define fight club?
Yeah, well, the first rule is you don't talk about fight
Right,
club.
we don't talk about fight club. But I'm going to make you talk about fight club.
Exactly. And so they had a series of webinars and also classes where they were literally bringing instructors, teaching them how to fight so that they potentially could be the next Antifa or the next by any means necessary. But we also saw instances, it happens all the way from Middlebury to Berkeley. And even more so, there was one recently last week at DePaul when a Jesuit Catholic university wouldn't allow Steven Crowder to speak on their college campus. This is a man who was pro-life and pro-family, and this supposedly Catholic school will not allow him to speak. Totally ridiculous.
Yeah, that's crazy. Chandler, we're going to go over to you. Is being a Republican on campus tough?
Well, I'll tell you, it's not easy to be a college Republican right now, but it sure is exciting, isn't it?
There we go.
And I will say this. Free speech is not a Republican issue. It's not a Democrat issue. It's an American issue. It's an issue that every single American should support. And I think on campus, we're starting to see that on the left even. We're starting to see our friends on the left actually understand that. And I think the Republican Party should be the party of free speech. Because as soon as we start advocating for free speech on campus, in our campaigns, we will win the argument.
Yeah. To follow up on that, you do a little bit different work than these guys do. How do you connect conservative students on campus to the political process outside of the boundaries of college campuses?
Absolutely. Our core mission is to grow the Republican Party, the next generation. We can't continue to win elections if we don't win young voters. I see a lot of young voters in the audience here today. That's very exciting. We need to get all of our friends back in our communities and back on campus to work on Republican campaigns, get involved, and vote Republican.
Yeah. So Charlie, I want to go to you because we're getting back to this principle question, right? It all comes down to the principles of free speech and talking about uncomfortable things like the Second Amendment on college campuses for them. How do you take that message and package it for a millennial and younger generation?
Well, look, I think at the basis of it is our education system has put feelings above thinking. And I even see it on television a lot. They say, well, how do you feel about an issue? I really don't care how people feel about anything, honestly. No one should care about it.
It's a no feelings
Your
zone.
feelings are irrelevant. I care about how you think about something. Feelings are up and down. They're roller coaster. It's very emotional. I've never made a good decision when I'm angry. I've never made a good decision when I'm upset or when I'm sad. But I do make good decisions when I think. But critical thinking is something that is being intentionally removed from our universities. And this idea of free speech, the most intolerant people in the world are those that preach tolerance,
right,
especially on college campuses. They're the first ones to shout down a speaker, like Grant has experienced once or twice. They're the first one to pull a fire alarm when they hear something they disagree with. And it's from a young age, the education system says, you hear something you disagree with, you're offended. If you're offended, you must resort to silencing that person. Therefore, disagreement must mean silencing. Yeah. And that is the basis of what Western civilization is all about, is that we can hear things all the time and we come to some sort of consensus. But the university has become the least diverse place in America, and that's what all these champions of freedom on this panel are doing so effectively, and that's why the conservative movement is going to win and the left is going to lose.
Absolutely. Grant, I want you to expand on that a little bit. In terms of the hostility towards simply just different ideas and the things that you have to do just to simply present another side of an argument. One thing that I think people should know is, and you have experience in this as well, after you go to a college campus and you give a speech, regardless of the chaos beforehand, you always have students who come up to you afterwards as a speaker and say, I didn't agree with you when I walked in this door, and I still don't agree with you, but at least I understand where you're coming from. Or the more positive result is they say they've changed their mind about a certain topic. So can you talk about the importance of that and how really you can make a lot of change when it comes to presenting uncomfortable ideas to the left?
Yeah, I really think universities are destroying themselves. Their ideas that they're indoctrinating these students with are the very ideas that these students are then using to wreak destruction on these universities that we see at University of California, Berkeley. So universities, I think it's in their interest to change the way they approach and embrace the diversity of ideas. And that's what I've been doing on campus. One example, I've actually had people chanting F-word Grant Strobel outside of my apartment at one point. Wow. And this was after the University of Michigan instituted this new pronoun policy. Have you guys heard of this? Well, not only 38, 58 pronouns that you see now on Facebook and whatnot, it's unlimited. It was a blank box. And so I started a hashtag campaign, the UM Pronoun Challenge. And I inserted in that box His Majesty. So my professors have to call me His Majesty every day in class.
I love it. It's so great.
Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't out of disrespect. This is just because this policy is insane. So I received tons of pushback, but you know what? I heard from a lot of people on the left coming out and supporting me. And that is what and why it's so important for students to stand up for what they believe in on campus. Because when you stand up for what you believe in, people will follow you. Yeah. You are the ones that are going to change our campuses. You're the ones that are going to lead to lawsuits if there are problems. And yeah, we're here to help defend you, and we have your back. So I encourage all of you to go out there and fight the good fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Chandler, the thing about education is that there are adultier adults, as I like to say, people who are older adults than college students. They are making decisions legislatively for college campuses, what you can do, what you can say. Elections are very important. So how do you get college students involved in elections that have effects on what they get to do as a college student?
Well, Katie, we have to bridge the gap between why elections are important and how it will actually impact young people on campus. And I think right now there is a gap there that we need to actually use our ideas to bridge that gap. Basically, this party in this country was founded on the competition of ideas, the free marketplace of ideas. And as soon as we start having that debate on campus, we can win young voters on campus and convince them that the Republican Party, the party of freedom for all people, the party of equal opportunity, is the party of young voters.
Mm-hmm. Stephen, I want to touch on the freedom of opportunity for all people aspect. I'm sure it's not easy for you to be a conservative at all. But can you talk about how maybe conservative students who aren't white manage the accusations of being an Uncle Tom or being a betrayal to your race on college campuses? Because that's a very real thing that you have to deal with.
Oh, absolutely. It's a tough climate out there, especially for minority conservatives. And even when you're trying to convert people who may be in the minority but kind of think the same way that we do, but are afraid to stand up and actually advocate for our beliefs, it has to be a very careful conversation. And when you're talking to these individuals, I think one of the best things you can do is just ask them questions and get them to realize that freedom is a beautiful thing. Ask them, hey, are you making more money right now? And hey, do you enjoy being able to speak? Do you appreciate freedom of speech? And what you're essentially doing is essentially almost inceptioning the idea of freedom into their ideas without going to them saying, hey, like with your big MAGA hat, and I have one, so it's, I have one, but when you're talking to these individuals, you want to almost plant the seed of liberty into their minds, and then we can kind of push them to the right way from there and get them to join fantastic student organizations like many of them on this stage right now.
Planting the seed of liberty, I like that a lot.
100%.
There's a lot of them for sure. Marcus, just to follow up on that, you're still a student.
Yep.
You have peers. I'm fascinated about this idea that you were the student body president and how
still
difficult
surprises a lot of people.
Right, it's very difficult to get into that because it's also a monopoly of liberal thought. So any student here who's thinking about maybe running, what advice do you have for them?
Absolutely do it is the short answer. But I think every student here will agree that a lot of the professors, they're just punks at the end of the day. They're not teaching anything. They're moral cowards. They're not promoting intellectual diversity, and what's really sad is they don't value reason and truth. And this is what we see. I mean, I'm not saying every professor is like this, but the vast majority of them are. And so really, the question that I have, and it's almost one to pose to the audience, is how do we, almost everybody on this panel, how do we operate in an environment where they don't value reason? And I don't have the perfect answer for that, but one answer that I do have that I think will start chipping away at it is getting strong student leaders elected into student government positions. I'm living proof that it works. If you work hard during your campaign, you can end up victorious. But then also work with our center-right governors across the country to get more solid student regents appointed to the Regents Board. Or even, they don't have to be the student regents, just regents in general, because they're the ones making policies day in and day out. They have the ability to fire faculty. That's complicated with tenure.
It's
tax money.
It's your money.
Really, when we're operating in an environment that doesn't have any sort of value on reason, we need to figure out what the left's been doing for so long, take their tactics, and they've taken over the administrations.
Yeah.
So let's get students and fight back.
100%. I think it's so important that we have conservative college students running for these positions, just like Marcus here, because you control millions of student fees and dollars that you've paid with your college tuition. And it's so important that we are being the guide of those student fees and hopefully lowering them as much as possible so college is more affordable. Because every time they have a liberal student body president, they always say, you know, we could just use $2 more, $4 more.
Any dollar, a penny, any of it, that would be great. Well, we only have about 5 minutes left, so we're going to run through a lightning round of 2 questions here. The majority of young people claim that they prefer socialism over capitalism, but when you get into the details about what that actually means, they're actually against it. How do you combat that narrative to show them the free market works? And second, adults who are donating to colleges across the country or who want to get more involved with young people always want to know what can they do. So how can they help each of you in what you're doing on college campuses to further your cause? Grant, we'll start with you.
Yeah, well, actually, right at that point, we have a project called the GPA Redistribution Project. And every spring, we encourage our YAF chapter chairs to create a video and ask students, well, would you like to take your A and redistribute part of that and give it to the students earning all C's? And you guys know what the answer is. That is how students are learning the value of free enterprise. And we would love to have every single one of your supports. If you are not a student, it is so important to encourage any young person you know to get involved with YAF. And it's also important to support us anyway. You can go to our website, yaf.org, and help out. Because right now we still have a legal battle against University of California, Berkeley, which we are currently suing. YAF is currently suing for not allowing Ann Coulter or David Horowitz to speak on the center campus.
And the Department of Justice is backing them up. So we only have 3 minutes left, so moving along.
That's exactly right. Well, Katie, I think we need to reject the premise that the left is putting out there. As soon as we accept their premise of what socialism really is or what progressivism is, then we're going to lose. I think we need to be a movement that is for positive solutions for this country, not against solutions. You know, the Republican Party shouldn't be the anti-democratic party. We should be a party that is for solutions that will make the lives of American people better in the future. And I think, you know, as soon as we start to win that fight on campus, we will start to build the next generation of Republican voters, which are so crucial to winning future elections and supporting our Republican candidates.
Absolutely. Charlie?
Put simply, your alma mater does not need your money unless you went to Hillsdale. So these universities are overfunded. These endowments protect radical leftists from any sort of point of retribution or oversight from the Board of Regents or administration. We should tax the endowments. We should go after the money that is disallowing them to actually have any sort of semblance of competition. And make no mistake, every organization up here had 1% of the money that conservatives give to the problem every year, which is higher education. This country would look a whole heck of a lot different. Do not give money to higher education. They're going to put that money directly to the destruction of Western civilization. Unless it's Hillsdale, Grove City, or one of the work colleges in the South, don't give money to those schools. Give it to the solution, not to the problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're going to go to you first, and then we'll finish with you.
Okay. So I'll keep it quick. I think a lot of times professors teach whatever their viewpoint is. A lot of times it's pro-socialism, as if it's the only truth. So I challenge all the students out here, and then also the students watching, to stand up to, like I said, these cowards who are professors and speak truth. Talk about the pros of capitalism, and a lot of times you might face some repercussions, but there's a lot of resources out there. I know Turning Point USA is a good kind of fallback. They're there to help.
Awesome. Over to you. Your final word.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of the best things that we're doing right now to address this problem, and let's be solution-oriented here. That's the Leadership Institute's Normandy Coalition, which is a group comprised of many people in this room and on this stage right now. We are actively taking offensive strategies to college campuses. In 2017, we hosted 862 conservative and liberty-minded speakers on over 350 college campuses, because we know that if liberal professors and school administrators won't spread the conservative message, then we will.
And you will.
Absolutely.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you, Katie.
Have an awesome CPAC.
Thank you.